Billionaire father sees black waitress let his disabled son lead a dance step, and his life changes. The ballroom shimmered with elegance. Crystal chandeliers cast a soft golden glow over champagne glasses, designer gowns, and men in sleek tuxedos who talked money like it was air. Among them stood Harrison Wells, a titan of industry, a billionaire whose name graced skyscrapers and stock tickers alike. Yet tonight, at the grand charity gala he himself funded, Harrison felt none of the pride or satisfaction he was known for. His mind kept drifting to the young boy sitting quietly in his wheelchair near the edge of the dance floor, his son, Ethan. Ethan was born with cerebral palsy. Where other boys his age played sports and roughhoused in backyards, Ethan's world was limited to therapy sessions, wheelchairs, and longing gazes through windows. Harrison had spared no expense, the best doctors, the most advanced equipment, a private tutor, even an in-home therapist. But despite all his wealth, Harrison couldn't buy what Ethan needed most, someone who simply saw him. As the string quartet shifted into a lively waltz, laughter and footsteps echoed through the hall. Couples twirled and swayed, their movements effortless. Ethan watched them, his eyes fixed on the dance floor, a faint smile ghosting across his lips. Harrison saw it too, and it stabbed at him, a reminder of the life his son could only dream of. But just as he turned away, his eyes caught a subtle moment. A young waitress, maybe in her early 20s, African-American, dressed in a crisp black uniform, had knelt beside Ethan. She said something, and whatever it was made Ethan laugh, not just a polite chuckle, but a full, unfiltered burst of joy. Then she did something that shattered every expectation Harrison had of the night. She stood, extended her hand, and asked Ethan for a dance. Harrison's breath caught in his throat. He watched, half in awe, half in disbelief, as she gently took Ethan's hand and guided it to her waist. With one hand on his chair and the other holding his, she began to sway in rhythm with the music. But she wasn't dancing for him, she was letting him lead. Slowly, she followed his movements, responding to every hesitant motion of his hand like it was the cue of a practiced dancer. And Ethan, his face lit up like the sun breaking through clouds, he was dancing. The room didn't stop, but something inside Harrison did. His world, the deals, the deadlines, the metrics, all seemed to fade as he watched his son shine in a way he'd never seen before. A simple act of kindness, unnoticed by the crowd, had done something billions never could. It gave Ethan dignity. After the dance ended, the waitress bent down and said something else that made Ethan nod eagerly. She placed a kiss on his forehead and walked back toward the kitchen. Harrison followed. He caught her near the service hallway, and she turned, surprised. "I'm sorry, sir, did I do something wrong?" she asked quickly, tensing up. "No," Harrison said, his voice uneven. "No, you did something right. What's your name?" "Jasmine," she said, cautiously. "You work here?" "Yes, sir. Just weekends. I go to college during the week. Nursing major. Do you know who that boy was?" She smiled softly. "Ethan?" "Yeah. I've seen him around a few times. He loves music. Always tapping his foot under the table. You knew he couldn't really dance. I knew he could feel the music. And sometimes, people just need to be asked." Harrison had no words. None that fit. He had been surrounded by thousands of people in his life, executives, advisors, politicians, and yet not one of them had shown his son the humanity this young woman had in less than 5 minutes. That night, as he lay awake in his penthouse suite, Harrison replayed the moment over and over. He thought of all the times he tried to fix Ethan, to manage him like a business problem. But Jasmine hadn't tried to fix him. She celebrated him. And in doing so, she reminded Harrison of something he had long forgotten: compassion doesn't come from power. It comes from presence. The next morning, Harrison made a call, not to his assistant, not to his investors, but to the nursing department at the community college Jasmine attended. He created a full scholarship in her name, anonymously. He also set up a fund to help train caregivers and teachers in arts-based therapies for children with disabilities, inspired by the way Jasmine let Ethan lead. But that was just the beginning. A week later, Harrison returned to the same hotel ballroom. This time, it wasn't for a gala. It was for a dance. Not one for the elite, but for children with disabilities and their families. There were no gowns, no champagne, no cameras, just music, joy, and the sound of laughter. Ethan wheeled into the center of the room, his eyes wide as he took it all in. Jasmine was there too, volunteering at the sign-in table. When she saw him, she grinned and gave him a wave. This time, it was Ethan who reached out his hand. They danced again, but now, others followed. Parents and children swaying, spinning, wheeling in wild, beautiful circles. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And Harrison? He watched, not from the edge, but from the center, swaying awkwardly at first, then more freely, beside his son. He had spent his life chasing perfection, control, and legacy. But in the messy, music-filled room, he found something richer, connection. Months later, Harrison invited Jasmine to lunch. "You changed my life," he told her simply. She smiled. "No, sir. Ethan did. I just gave him the floor." Today, Harrison still runs his companies, still signs billion-dollar deals. But his true pride isn't in what he's built, it's in what he's learned. That every child deserves to be seen, that sometimes the greatest leaders are the ones who follow a child's lead, and that a dance, even a quiet one, can move more than just feet. It can move hearts. In a world that often values wealth over worth, power over presence, Jasmine's small act of kindness became a ripple that changed the tide for one man, one child, and eventually, countless others. And for those lucky enough to witness that dance, it was more than a moment. It was a reminder that no act of compassion is ever too small, and that sometimes, letting someone else lead is the bravest thing we can do.